Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Yep. So with pleasure, we invited two expert in IT infrastructure domain, who are uh, John Moiker. He is a standard architect specialized in interoperability, security, and privacy. He is also a co-chair of the HL7 security work group, as well as the co-chair of IHE IT Infrastructure. And another speakers is Olivier Eager. He's IHE. Has been working in health IT for about 20 years and been actively participate as a monitor for our IHE Europe Connectathon since 2016. He's ITI technical co-chair since 2021. Welcome both speakers, and thanks for your time to share your knowledge with us. So before started, I would like to have a little briefing about the Connectathon. So this year, the Connectathon will held in Rennes in France on 25th to 29th of September. And for those who haven't registered, and the registration is started, and I will not go through the full step of registration process, but I will invite you to, if you are interested to register, you invite you to scan the barcode here, or you can go straight to our website, ihgazelle.ihe.net. There are a handful, plenty of information there. If you would like to know how to register yourself, you can go to this our step-by-step tutorial. And if you would like to get some information of our past webinar, you can go to our training material. You will find the register webinar and as well as the presentation slide. And if you want to keep in touch with us, welcome to join our IHG community in Zoho. And if you have any question, you can send your question to our technical manager. Yep. And just a little reminder, our early bird registration will be end on 30th of March, which is this Thursday. And what will you get for early bird uh, discount? You will get a 20% off of your register system. So make sure you register your system and uh, generate your contract and send it to us by 30th of March. So without delay any time, I will invite our first speaker, Olivier. So the floor is yours, Olivier.
Hello, thank you, Wei.
Thank you.
Can I share my screen?
Yes.
But I'm not, can you make me as a presenter? Wei, can you make me as a
Oh,
presenter? I cannot share my screen
oh,
from
you
here. The
cannot screen
button
your
is gray.
screen. Okay, I will try. So sorry.
You merely need to stop sharing in order for Oliver to.
It says only meeting organizers and presenters
Uh,
can share. Can you share, John?
no, no, it's grayed out. And you are showing as a guest, as am I. So
Wei, can you make me a presenter?
If you could help me, because I couldn't make it.
Or can you switch the slides?
Yeah. Please hold on, I would just double check.
So in Teams, you would somewhere need to make me a presenter, and then I could share the slides.
Okay. So what about if I could? Is it
No,
okay?
I can.
You can?
I see that I can navigate the slides myself. So perfect. Everything is good, so I can take it up from here.
Okay. Thank you.
So sorry for the delay, everybody. Thank you that we can, John and I can quickly introduce you the ITI infrastructure domain, what we cover in this domain, what is new since last September, since the last Connectathon, what will still happen till December, what is in the scope of the Connectathon, and we will focus a little bit on the new profiles. If you have any comments, please put it into the chat, or I don't know if you unmute yourself and ask a question. So the IT infrastructure domain defines interoperable infrastructure for the secure sharing of healthcare information independent of the clinical domain.
Yeah, Oliver, it's not changing for everybody. So that control you're seeing. Oh, wait.
That's not, right.
Maybe you can try to share your screen again, Olivier.
No, I can't. It's
Oh,
disabled.
Yeah. Do you need to right click on Oliver and make him a presenter?
Or can you share your screen one more time? And there was another button, live sync to presenter. Can you share your screen one more time, May?
Yeah, I will share my screen.
Does it switch now?
I think so.
Do you see now IT infrastructure?
Yep.
Yes.
See.
Perfect. Thank you. So sorry for the delay. Teams is always incredible
So
how much
sorry.
new features. So the infrastructure domain is often used, and afterwards it can be used within an application individually, these different actors, but often it's also deployed within an organization or a regional or a national health information exchange. And it's quite an old domain, so it was established in 2002 in order to address use cases that cross multiple clinical domains and rely on a common IT infrastructure. So now you should see the description of our ITI infrastructure domain. So we have different topics about document sharing, profiles, patient identity management, provider directory solutions, and then the technical framework itself. You see below the link here if you want to have more details. And in summary, what it covers. So slide 11. So a lot of things is around cross-enterprise document sharing, how we can register documents in a affinity domain, how we can exchange those documents, and that this works in a secure and safe manner. There is a lot about security, so we have audit trail profiles and node authentication. We need to synchronize the times on the different network machines, so there is a profile about consistent time and a lot of things because we have different patient identifiers everywhere. There are profiles how we can cross-reference patients. And in terms of testing at the IHE Connectathons, these are also probably the most built in, but still very important if you want to track down issues and problems and audit trails is this consistent time profile that we can share the same time on all the different machines, keep them in sync. Then a lot of testing has also to be done with audit trail and node authentication. What kind of actions a system has performed and if it is communicating securely over the network. And then a lot of testing in the last years has been done for document sharing, and this is based on either this XDS, cross document sharing profile, which is based on web service and SOAP, and the newer sibling, which covers the similar use cases but in FHIR. So mobile access to health documents allows you to do document sharing with the equivalent FHIR profiles, and you can group this also together with XDS, that you have these both environments available as an interface. So in IHE, we have these different integration profiles, and for each integration profile, you have then the different actors, and the transactions define what kind of actions you can do between these different actors in this integration profile. And I wanted to show you two examples. So one of these profiles, which we updated quite newly, is the SER profile, secure retrieve profile. In origin, these were PDF documents, but this is now converted to a web-based format. So this is a profile now which we have accessible as a web page. Another profile is the mobile health document.
We lost synchronization.
Yeah, I see it. Wei, could you switch to slide 15, please? Thank you. So how you see it here, this profile is now based on FHIR and is also defined and structured like a FHIR implementation guide. So this has the advantage, you still have the same structure like with this volume 1, volume 2, where you have the transaction, volume 3, where you have the content profiles, but you have also the conformance resources, value set, code systems with it, and you can use this also then for validation if you do your own implementation. So we have all the things like you have the capabilities of this FHIR implementation guides. If you could go maybe to the next slide, please, Wei.
C16.
Thank you. So all new in IHE, we used to call those mobile profiles. So all those new mobile profiles are now published as FHIR implementation guides. So we have the acts and transactions defined. We have all these conformance resources. And what is also new is you have the possibility to add examples. So in earlier technical frameworks, the examples were separate, but now we have these examples directly within the specification. This helps us also then to test those things at the Connectathon, and you can test it also yourself during development. How this profile gets developed. I hope you see now slide 17, the IHE profile development process. We have on one side a planning committee, which takes up the different requests from vendors or users, what they would like to have developed. And then this is planned, and then we have a technical committee, which takes on this work. So if you or different users would have to have a new feature, you can bring in a work item proposal. There is then a monthly planning meeting where these work item proposals are evaluated, how big the work is, how good it is planning, how good the requirements are. And then afterwards, if it's decided to take on, there are telcos for these different work items. And you as IHE members can actively engage and bring your input in there. We have then also 3 yearly face-to-face or virtual meeting where we do this item development. And then afterwards, there comes a public comment phase. And if it's ready, it can then be provided as in a trial implementation, which can then be tested at the Connectathon. So this means that we have also revisions of profiles. For example, here since the last Connectathon, there has been update to 4 different profiles. On one side, the mobile access to health documents profile has had additions since the last September. Then the secure retrieve profile I showed you before has had updates. We have a new profile specifically for audit log patterns, basic audit log patterns profile, and for sharing value sets, there have been also updates. We are not doing only profiles description on a technical way, but then there are also, for example, like white papers or other things which goes into public comment phase, where the places that you can give us feedback what you think about this work. So there are 2 things now in public comment. One is the cross-community patient discovery profile, health data locator, and the revoke options, which there were made changes. So if you would be very helpful if you could have a look at that, especially if it's something which would also like you to test at the upcoming Connectathon, because then you can give us feedback if you see already something which would not be good or would not be, might be feedback required. And the other one is a document sharing across network technologies. We have different things in development now also. So maybe John, would you like to take over this part here and go
I'll take
through
over.
the outstanding things? Thanks a lot.
Yeah, so the planning and the tech committee work together, as Oliver pointed out, and we're using a Kanban board using the GitHub functionality. We used a different tool before. But essentially, we have the left-hand side, which is new work item proposals. We evaluate those on the monthly meeting that, as Oliver pointed out, we evaluate, do we understand it? Is it described in terms of a use case need? Oftentimes we get new work item proposals which are describing the solution, but don't really describe the problem. So sometimes we have to go back and forth on those first 2 columns to get the need described. We then take a planning committee assessment of how big is this particular new work item. So we have development, it's going to be this hard to develop, it's going to be this hard to review, it's going to be this hard to set up the testing. And then the primary tool that the planning committee uses is this prioritization. So what we do from a planning perspective is we look at it to see, well, from a market need perspective, and this is where we look at the market need globally. Which of these are more important to the market need? And then from the top to the bottom, we prioritize. So sometimes things move up, sometimes things move down on that monthly call. And then that's where the planning committee leaves it. The tech committee meets, I think it's 4 times a year on a quarterly basis. So we're doing quarterly based planning, and each quarter we can move any work item along to public comment or move it along to publication, trial implementation. And when we move something along, we then have new capacity available to work on projects. So the tech committee then looks at that second column and decides which thing the tech committee is going to work on. And tech brings in a couple of more evaluations on the ability to produce the specification, whether it be individuals available, subject matter experts, or is the market having mature standard to publish. So we're kind of move things over to the right from this perspective. Next slide. So some of the most interesting or new changes that might be hot for the next Connectathon. Mobile access to health documents had some significant new features added. They were added as options, so they don't really invalidate any previous testing. So if you've tested an MHD in the previous version, those are still the same tests. But there's some now new options. So there's a new option for generate metadata. This option is a document source option, so and a document recipient option. But it allows the document source to say, well, I have a document, but I don't know how to create the metadata, or I'd like some help creating the metadata entries. So it can just simply provide the document, and the metadata would get created. There is another option for simplified publish, which essentially will allow you to publish in one transaction of a document reference, the document reference and the document content. Unlike all of our other uses of a document reference where we forbid the data element, this one allows you to stuff the document that you have into the data element, and then the server side would extract it out of the data element and create a binary, and process it along at that point. The simplified publish also would automatically create the submission set based on that document reference. Again, we had some feedback that for a simple source that only knows, hey, I have this document, and I don't really know or care about creating a submission set. And since the submission set for the most part can be a simplified version can be derived off of document reference, we allowed that to happen with the simplified publish. And then we have another option, the ITI 65 FHIR documents publish, and this one allows you to publish a bundle with a document reference and the document instead of a binary. And in this way, the server side can do the serialization into a binary. So it alleviates the client from having to be able to do that. A few other things have happened in this version, but those are the main new features. Based on Connectathon testing, these things might survive. We might decide that they were a great idea, but we don't have anybody bringing anything forward to test. So we do need people to bring your implementations forward to Connectathon so that we can get some understanding of the importance of these new options. Next slide. So the other new implementation guide, and this is brand new, it wasn't an update, but the basic audit log patterns essentially takes the the criteria around the ATNA, what is a security or privacy relevant event, and it takes the profiling capabilities of FHIR profiles and says, well, if we were to take these set of events that will happen in a FHIR RESTful environment, create, read, update, delete, search, along with access control decision made, consent used for an access control decision. So we know these are rather important events, and we said, well, let's just take those events, take the concept and create some FHIR structure definition profiles for each of them, provide examples for each of them, so that we can then have some more realistic testing. We're also then using this implementation guide in other implementation guides to set the pattern. So The MHD update that you saw on the previous page has now incorporated and relies on this BULP implementation guide, and it takes some of the patterns from here and further refines them for MHD purposes. But now the audit event that's in MHD is derived off of this pattern rather than just derived off of Fire Core. So this is a really useful implementation guide as itself, but it's also a useful implementation guide to drive consistent audit log patterns within IHE or within your particular project. Next slide. So the mobile care services discovery has gone through a pretty big change, driven by a lot of analysis around how do we use MCSD to describe a health information exchange. Predominantly this idea that, well, if I have initiating gateways and responding gateways and directories and patient discovery and user management, I have these kinds of infrastructural things that a directory could describe from a top-down perspective. How do I explain those? How do I enable the looking for the appropriate endpoint given a home community idea that I got from an MCSD or from an XCPD request? So the changes that have happened within this particular revision are around that concept. We do have, as Oliver pointed out, we have a topologies white paper, is a short term we use for it. But this topologies white paper is kind of saying, hey, from a health information exchange, there's a couple of different topologies, and we need to explain the various topologies and how those topologies would use a directory. Much of the changes that are in this revision 3.5 were changes to support those topologies. We have been working on the topologies paper after this release, so there's likely to be some changes coming up to MCSD, again, based on the topologies white paper and any public comment we receive on the topologies. So if you're involved in a health information exchange and you're involved in the configuration side of the health information exchange or a federation of health information exchanges, that topologies white paper is really important to review, and please provide feedback, because what we've said in there, we'll probably continue to evolve the MCSD. Next slide. We have, so that's what we've currently got available. That's the new things that you'll see within the upcoming Connectathon. But we have, of course, IT infrastructure continues to work on things. So we're currently working on two major projects, two major implementation guides. One is a scheduling. So this is a setting the use cases of a hospital or a clinic wants to expose a FHIR API that can be used to discover time calendar slots that are available for particular use cases, and to put in a request to take a particular time slot. This might be used by clinicians. It might be used by patients. Within it, of course, we have to deal with, this idea of, well, how do you expose enough information to expose that there are slots available without exposing the information about what has been reserved and the like. So we've got some interesting things going on there. This is going to be derived off of some of the use cases that in the US, the Argonaut project had worked up within the STU 3 days, but they requested that we take over for FHIR R4 and going forward. So it's in our consensus organization, so we won't potentially have exactly the same solution, but we're being informed by that work that was done. Privacy consents on fire, a implementation guide I'm working on, is taking a look at the simple use cases around consent. I worked on the basic patient privacy CDA consent resource in the previous. This is at least hitting on those similar use cases, but it's using the FHIR consent resource. It's primarily has to be able to work for document sharing, but might work for more than document sharing, especially eventually. The first revision might be more constrained, and we might revise it based on public comment and interest in implementation. But the idea is this has in it how a consent is profiled for a set of simple use cases, a set of intermediate use cases, and advanced use cases. Where advanced use cases is using sensitivity tags, so alcohol abuse data or drug abuse data, those sensitive health topics. So it's using the meta security element. The intermediate ones are using more of the common elements around who is the author or it's related to this particular encounter, those kinds of things. And basic is really just, able to support things like, yes, I'm in, or no, I'm not. It's got a little bit more than that, but the basic kind of hits the same use cases that basic patient privacy consent supports. So it's going to probably have a version, the first public comment is going to be more constrained, but that's the intent, is that we eventually cover these broader use cases. And then we're working on another one for subscriptions for so kind of the equivalent of the DSub document subscription implementation guide that we have in the XDS world. We're creating one in the FHIR world. Again, probably predominantly using the FHIR subscription mechanism, but again, that one is in early days, so very interested in it, then please participate. Was there a question I should look at? I think I saw. Oh, okay, so the link, you got that. Okay. All right, so next slide. Actually, I think we're done. So we're now at the questions.
Thank you, John and Olivier. Yeah, we got the one.
So
question.
the privacy consents, that one is probably going to be in public comment this summer. I don't know that I'm going to have enough of it ready for public comment in the spring. Obviously, the more people get engaged with the ITI Tech committee, the quicker that particular implementation guide moves along. You can certainly see these in development. If you need directions on how to find them, let me know. Are there other questions?
I have a question about the BALP profile, BALP.
Yes.
How does it fit or match with the ATNA profile? I mean, is there a kind of match on the content of the messages, or how does it work?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So ATNA, many people know it using the DICOM schema and syslog. ITI added a supplement a couple of years back that provided for a FHIR-based query So you could query the ATNA repository using fire audit event resource. And then we added a feed so you can record an audit using an audit event. In that supplement, we showed the mapping between a audit event, a fire audit event resource, and the DICOM audit message schema. So we kind of consider them equivalent. They have different names for some of the elements, but the concept is there. So semantically, they are considered equivalent. So BULP is indeed only defining the fire audit event profile and providing examples. But the expectation is that if you follow the mapping mechanism in the supplement, you can see what the resulting data would be within a DICOM schema. So we don't show that schema map on every audit event, although it is within the fire core. So I'm also over in the fire core. So fire core, when we update the audit event within fire core, with my HL7 hat on, we always make sure that the DICOM mapping is within the audit event mapping exercise. So does that answer the question, or does it open up new questions?
Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you.
Excellent. The events that are in BULP tend to be rather fire-centric events, right? So we have create, read, update, delete. We don't really have generic events there. Okay. Other questions? I guess, given no other questions, I would like to throw one back at Oliver that I didn't prep him for. One of the other features of using the implementation guide publication tooling, Oliver pointed out that there is a codable version of the constraints on a resource, and there is ability to put examples in there that validate. But one of the other abilities that Oliver has used is to be able to take within a project and be able to derive off of the international spec and say, oh, these are the project constraints. And those project constraints can also be well-formed like that. And I don't know if, Oliver, you want to take that concept and help explain how that implementation guide tooling enables that ability.
Yes, I can maybe add. So in Switzerland, we started also to do want to offer fire-based implementation guides for our Swiss electronic patient record. And what we do then is that we create our new implementation guides and we derive them from the IHE implementation guide. Because with each of these implementation guide, you get the conformance resources, and then in your own implementation guide, you can reference those conformance resources and derive that from them too. So you do not have to copy paste everything, but you can directly derive from all these conformance resources and constrain. For example, we have more limited value sets than it's possible in the IHE domain, or more specific value sets in the Swiss context. And so you can specify that. And we do this for the MHD, for PIXM, and RESTful ATNA. So it doesn't depend then, actually. You can kind of like Lego bricks put together the different implementation guides you want to use in your solution. And then you can also use the tooling. So at the Connectathon, you will then be able directly to validate your content and resources. So IHE provides with the EVS client the tooling, and you can then call up those different conformance resources and check if your content is equivalent to the requirements of those implementation guides.
Yep, that's the point I wanted to get across. And the nice part is, as you said, you get the international constraints are pulled into yours without having to copy paste, and therefore examples within your project, which can have your local language, your local constraints, your local vocabulary. They are doubly validated against your own specs and against the core. And then the other nice part about, you saw that we have even some of our new supplements are being published in HTML form. We're also in IT infrastructure really benefiting by a lot of the deep linking that these conversions to HTML enable us to do. So one of the other nice things that you should start to see more and more is specifications that can deeply link into its predicate specification, or even to something that might be derived off. So I just wanted to put that out there. Did that bring up any other questions? I can throw out one other one. ITI well, ITI and PCC have been working with the IPS project. So IHE is a member of the joint work group that's working on the International Patient Summary, and we're really wanting to see and test IPS content flowing through XDS or XCA or MHD transports. So you'll probably also see at least some informal testing of that, maybe some formal testing of that. And I would I put that out there as something that's kind of in the ITI camp. It's somewhat in the PCC camp, but it doesn't much matter at that point. So IPS testing, I'll just throw out there as something else that might be very interesting to the folks.
Okay, so thanks a lot, John. Wei, I think maybe you can take over and make the closeout if there are no more questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any further question? No? Okay. Please,
Good.
sound good. So everything is very clear. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. So we'll close it for this session. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And yeah, if you have any further questions, feel free to contact us. And yeah, we will see you next time. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye now.